You're listening to the No Gray Areas podcast with Patrick Nicola. We welcome back JJ Parma, a 21-year U.S. Navy SEAL veteran. By sharing his stories, JJ explains what it takes to be a U.S. Navy SEAL. Let's dive in.
JJ Parma, welcome back. So you were one of the first guests on our No Gray Areas podcast, and by popular demand, you're back. It was one of the most listened to podcasts that we've had so far. But let's just catch the audience up, because some of them may not know, or they maybe didn't watch that. I think it was episode 3 and 4 that you were on. But you grew up where?
Inner city kid.
You were an inner city kid.
Brockton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
City of Champions. Remember we covered that?
Yeah,
I think, last time.
And you played hockey, because you went on and played hockey in college, right?
I would hardly call it played, though. I dressed, walked on, and then left. And so, but ended up playing, at a Division III college, and now as a Division I college. All that stuff.
But after that, then you graduate, and then you decide you want to become a Navy SEAL, which is where you spent the next 21 years as a Navy SEAL, right?
Correct.
So what was it? Review that really quickly. What was it that made you want to be a Navy SEAL? Because you weren't, some boys grow up and they hear about this and they're like, that's what they wanted to be their whole life. You didn't even know what a Navy SEAL was up until you saw some poster, right?
So back then, all myth, lore, rumor.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no internet, right? We had Netscape. What was the browser? Netscape. I remember going on a computer and not being able to. The screen wouldn't even load. I remember typing in my junior year of college or whatever, Navy SEALs, and getting like half a picture, and then the 56K would, and then you just leave the library, right? It's like one of the 2 computers that are there. But the story goes back to my youth, and I can't remember whether we discussed this last. I'm sure we did, because it's a pretty significant point. My father was a Vietnam vet.
Okay.
Passed away last year, but he did 2 tours in Vietnam, and first Air Cav Army. And
did he talk much about that?
So he didn't talk about it.
Okay.
And the more he didn't talk about it, the more fascinated I became.
Yeah.
I had every book as a kid from the Vietnam War. I had every story, every collection, every Time magazine book that was produced with the photos and the VC and the Americans, and just I was fascinated with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I played, I was the Army guy. I went to the surplus store, bought all the stuff. I had all the jackets, collected stuff. Some of my relatives had served. My grandfather served. My uncle served. And I would collect all that gear, and we'd play as kids, hours on end,
So you were, as a child, you were fascinated with the whole military thing. Yeah.
Fascinated, wanted to serve.
A lot of it because your dad served, and he wouldn't talk about it.
Right. I think that's where a lot of that generated, and it comes from.
So then what connected with the Navy SEALs for you then?
So that story just goes into the future. So the hockey piece is significant. The sports piece is significant. I played football and hockey in college. But as I got older, I got pretty proficient at the sport of hockey. I loved it. It was a good distraction for me. That military calling, so to speak, kind of took a back seat for a long time, and I didn't even realize that it had just kind of went on ice for a little while, right?
Because you were so focused on.
I was focused,
and I like how you weaved that in. Went on ice. Yep. That was beautiful.
No pun intended. Pun intended.
Yes.
Pun intended.
Yeah, brilliant.
But as I put that dormant for a little while, unintentionally, we got pretty decent, and ended up going to private high school, into BC High. All my BC High Patriots. I listened to this.
We hear them
this
cheering.
podcast. Yeah,
we hear them
can
cheering.
hear them in the background. Go Eagles! We had a pretty good hockey team. It was Catholic Conference, one of the most competitive hockey leagues at the time, and it still is in the Northeast. And so, you had a pretty significant chance of going somewhere to play some hockey. Yeah, right, all over the Northeast, Canada, wherever. The funny story, I don't know if I ever told you, I was recruited by West Point. There's only 2 Division I hockey teams in the academies.
Really?
It's West Point and Air Force. And
you almost ended up being an Army guy.
How funny would that story?
Yeah.
I often think about like, you think God doesn't play a hand in these things?
Yeah.
Often think about one little change along the route
would have changed the whole trajectory of your life.
Everybody can sit back and think of these.
For sure.
Right? How many times?
Yeah.
If you put it
That's
down
a whole
on
nother
paper,
podcast right there.
If you drew a line, like draw a pictogram,
Yeah.
And every time there was a major decision, how different your life would have been. It's fascinating. I get fascinated with that stuff.
Yeah.
I really do.
No, that's true.
But anyway, so yeah, I got good in hockey, and I went did my thing, and split my time between two different universities, graduated with a business degree, and had a job in New York City, the bank, ready to go, suit and tie, except I wasn't
And
ready.
then you thought,
Except I wasn't ready to go.
what a perfect place to use my business degree, the Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the connection. I'm seeing the connection.
I'm telling you that dormant piece of, I just call it hidden patriotism or dormant patriotism, flooded back in May of 96.
So all those years growing up when you were playing Army.
Just flooded back. The thought of going into the civilian world and just going into an office every day, I had a breakdown. I said, there's no way. Like, let me explore this a little more. So I walked into a recruiter's office. I literally was a recruiter's dream come true.
Yeah.
Had a degree, didn't really care, didn't really do any background history on, how do you become an officer? Oh, how do you do that? Nope. I walked into a recruiter's office in Connecticut. 2 guys were sitting there. They looked, I said, and there was a poster on the wall and said, U.S. Navy SEALs. It was just one of those recruiting things.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be one of those guys. It's a true story. It's significant because these 2 guys ended up coming to my BUD/S graduation in Greenwich,
they really?
Connecticut. Yeah, long story. Yeah, poster was on the wall. I said, I want to do that. They said, you're crazy. Okay, but you should be an officer because you just graduated college and you qualify on your scores for nuke and pilot. And I said, everything was just toned out.
So you had an opportunity to go right into officer training school.
Well, that's what they were pitching. I didn't even hear their pitch. I didn't even let them pitch.
Yeah.
I didn't even let them come close.
Because of a poster on a wall.
Yep, poster on a wall.
Once again, the trajectory of your life could have been so much different, right?
The team guys that listen, if any team guys listen, they're going to love this story because it was all, like I said, it was all rumor, lore, fiction. You can't separate fact. Nobody knew anything about the program. There was no internet. I couldn't go get the scores, what it takes for PT. There were printouts somewhere. The guys at the recruiter office had one. Here's the minimum PT requirements to be a SEAL. Here's the Navy's requirements. Here's the SEAL requirements. I remember talking to people after I made the decision. Before you go on delayed entry programs called DEP. Right. So I actually went in then in May after I graduated and wasn't going to go deploy go to boot camp until August of that year. So I had the summer, and they call it delayed entry program. So during that summer, the stuff that the stories. Here's one.
Yeah.
It's always somebody that knew. I know a guy who knows a guy whose cousin was it was always 6 removed. I'm like, yeah. And then you listen as a kid, not knowing anything from anything.
Trying to learn what it was like.
Yeah, trying to learn was okay, what does that guy say? Like he knows, right? It's 18 removed from the SEAL. And he was a cook. It's always a cook.
Yeah.
He goes, I know a guy I went to BUD/S in Coronado. And he goes, on day 1, you get a puppy when you check in. I said, now I'm intrigued. Now you're saying, okay, so you get a puppy. He goes, yeah. And I go, what do you do? He goes, you have to, all 6 months of BUD/S, you got to raise that puppy. He goes, but in order to graduate, you have to shoot that puppy. And I just remember.
No.
I remember looking at the individual and just going, yeah, okay. I mean,
yeah,
really? And then there's no way to verify. There's no way to back up.
That's the kind of stories you were hearing that whole time.
Oh yeah. Helicopter take off. Day 1 of BUD/S, helicopter goes out to the Atlantic, drops you off. You got to swim.
You got to find. Oh
yeah, you swim your way to the East Coast, and then that's the test. So the stories were just like.
So what was your biggest shock though? Once the training starts, what was one of your biggest shocks? Like one of your greatest physical challenges
when I went through?
Yeah, or mental challenges.
So showing up at the command, I mean, you coming from boot camp, which is easy day, right? You passed that, met the requirements, the minimum requirements. You were rostered to go to a class as long as you medically passed everything there, and then they'd hold you until your BUD/S class came up, and then you ship you to Coronado, and that's how it went.
Yeah.
When I'll never forget. I showed up, you dress whites, you're proud, Navy. Right? This is a proud thing about going to boot camp and then becoming a member of the United States Navy. And you show up, and these SEAL instructors come out, and they're fit, and they're just as smug as you could possibly be, like me now, like a smug son of a gun. First thing they did, I had my medical records, I had all this stuff. You try to look professional, you put this demeanor on, go get wet, go to the surf. You come through the door at BUD/S. And I was running.
Right away.
I was running through the compound, right to the beach, right into the water, whites and all. And they just guys sitting there trying to get caught, laughing, and that was it. Then the megaphones came out on Monday morning. It's all hell breaks loose. And
sometimes you hear that phrase like, "Man, this just got real." What was the moment where you go, this just
in
got
training.
real. Yeah, in training.
So everybody has their crucible.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's is different. For a lot of guys, it's Hell Week. I had no issue for whatever reason. Hell Week.
That's the famous one. Everybody talks about Hell Week.
That's the famous one. We lose a lot of people. Pre Hell Week and in during the first 48 hours of Hell Week is when we attrite a lot of students. In second phase, maybe week 2 of the 8-week, 7-week phase, you're doing this thing called pool competency, where you're with the tanks on. You can YouTube it. I mean, you can go look at class 234, whatever, and you're on the bottom of the pool, and you got tanks, mask, fins. You're down there for about 20 minutes or so, right? Feels like an eternity when you're down there, but you've got instructors above you, and then you're getting surf hits. All about comfort in the water without the gear and the gear on. Right, so you've got these tanks, and everything's about getting these tanks and then just screwing them up, putting knots in the air hose, exhalation hose, simple hits, complex hits, all builds up.
All the kind of things that could happen if you were out. Yeah,
all builds up, making you pretty much hypoxic during things. You're never really getting back into the flow, and that's the point, right? You get more uncomfortable, and all of a sudden, bam! There's a big test at the end. I won't spoil it for those of us that are trying to go through training at home, but there's a big test at the end, and if you pass or fail, it's all based on your comfort and procedure. Everything is attention to detail under pressure. So test 1, go down there. I'm down there for about, I don't know, guessing 13 minutes, felt like an hour and a half. And I thought I was at the crucible, went down there, went to tug a little bit too hard on the manifold, pulled my hoses straight off the thing. So now you got a free-flowing oxygen tank on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember holding my breath. The instructor looked at me. I looked at him. I just took the manifold and sat on the bottom and started sucking air. He's like, no. Up. Fail. You get 4 tries. I forget what happened on the second try. I don't know if I thought it was, as the end of the test again, and I didn't do the procedure right. Fail. But on number 3, I go, everything was like, am I going to roll? Am I going to?
Is this all in the same day? Like,
this is all in the same. It's like an over 2-day test, but tries 3 and 4, I think, were day 2. And so that made it even worse, because now you go to sleep and you're like, oh God, now half the class is sitting over there, and then the rest of the misfits, right? We've got to test out. So I made it on the 3rd try. But it was like that constantly. You're like, oh God. Right up until Bud's graduation. I mean, they keep the pressure on.
So that moment at the bottom of the pool was really where you're feeling like this got real. Like this is,
it's actually it's when you get out of the pool. You climb over the side of the water, and you're sitting there, and UDT shorts, and you're soaking wet and cold, and you're like, oh God, I got to do it again. Think of the mental mind prep that goes in. I mean, at least for me, I was that way. I worked myself up to every evolution. I'm like, oh God, am I going to pass this evolution? Like, what do I need to do? And then you're sleeping at night, mentally preparing, and what it takes to just keep doing that procedure. Because when I tell you this procedural, I mean, to the point where if your strap goes in the wrong way, not left to right, right to left, fail.
Yeah. When was the moment then when you get out of training now, you're an official Navy SEAL. When was the moment where you're going, this just got real, we're not in training anymore? Because I know you had a lot of situations. You were all over the world. You shared some of that with me before. But what do you remember that moment where you're like, this isn't training anymore, this is real?
Yeah, I remember it vividly. And it actually was not my first exposure to combat was 1999. It was pre-9/11.
It wasn't your first one?
It wasn't my first one.
Really?
It wasn't my first one. So we went in, everybody forgets that war, Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Kosovo conflict, and all that stuff under the Clinton administration. So the moment that you speak of was 9/11. So everybody remembers where they were, 9/11. All right, it's a no-brainer. I was in Kill House. Can't make this up. We were, Fort Pickett was the name of the place. It's a training venue. And I remember doing run after run. It's summer, it's hot, in Virginia Beach. And I remember coming out, taking a water break. We're all sweating. And the instructors, I won't name their names. I'm pretty sure they're retired by now. But they were, came over and got everybody all fired up. It's like, oh, Bin Laden. He said this. Can't make this up. Bin Laden just landed 2 planes before anybody knew it was Bin Laden, right? Before that was
it wasn't even public
out.
Yet.
It wasn't public.
Yeah.
We didn't even. We just thought it was a motivational speech. Bin Laden just landed 2 planes into the World Trade Center, and now we're gonna get in there. So we're just drinking water. Like I'm like, I gotta hydrate. I'm sweating. And I thought he was gonna give us a rah-rah speech. It got people fired up, and went in and did 2 more runs, not knowing that 9/11 actually happened. Like this actually happened.
Yeah.
One of our new guys was in the van out there just putting the air conditioner on because it was so hot that day. I remember him firing up, turning the radio. I went over to either reload, do something, came out of the house, and there it is. It's all, I said, turn the radio. It turns the radio up. He goes, oh, yeah, the second plane. They're just talking about the second plane already hit. And then everybody, the entire platoon was around the van, and I just remember just being in shock.
Yeah.
At that moment, that everybody realized that he was telling a real story, and we went in and did more live runs. At that moment, the instructor cadre said, pack it up, boys. We got to get it. We're going back to the beach. That's when it got real. You want to talk about getting real?
Yeah.
That's when it got real.
Yeah.
We're going back to the beach. We did. We made it off because they shut down the bases after. Like, bases went to ThreatCon Delta or whatever their highest. The whole, from then on, I think everything changed.
Yeah.
I mean, things that were, I'd been, 1997, 8, 9, 3, 4, 5 years in the teams.
But it was different from that moment on.
It never went back to being the paradigm shift that happened that day.
Yeah.
Surreal. Like everything was in motion. The balls were in motion, and how quickly stuff happened.
I can't even imagine that because, again, anybody listening who was alive at that time, we can go, this is where I was. This is when I heard it. This is the moment. This is how I felt.
Right.
But for your team that was sitting there that day, you have all those emotions plus, okay, we're going over there.
Right.
This just got real.
Right.
All right, let's back up a little bit because we've talked about this a little bit before, just in our meetings together, and why some people make it through there or not. Because I suppose that everybody that comes in the Buds program, this has been their dream, this has been their passion.
Yeah.
Maybe it was later in life. Some of them maybe their whole life they thought about it. They don't go in there expecting like I'm not going to make it. I think most of them are going, I'm going to make it. I'm going to be a SEAL, but most don't.
Right.
Why do you think that is? What's the difference between the people who make it and don't make it?
Perspective, expectation. I can tell you the Gallup story, that Naval Special Warfare paid Gallup hundreds of thousands of dollars, or who knows, to do a study to target areas in the United States for SEAL recruiting.
Yeah,
it's never been focused. I don't think.
Trying to figure out
hey, where can we spend the preponderance of our time to get in there and make sense, it make sense to find SEALs. Long story short, the study turned out to be inconclusive. They went around, they found little pockets, one in Pennsylvania and Northeast, one in Northern California, a couple in the Midwest. Really was inconclusive. What kind of sports they play? Well, wrestlers and swimmers, those individual sports seemed to, well, then there's also there was a bunch of football players, and then there was a bunch of non-team sport that didn't play team sports at all.
City boys or farm boys,
or
none of
all
it.
Backgrounds, all it really didn't matter. It really, if you read the results, there was both a classified and unclassified production. I believe I had years since I've seen it, but inconclusive.
So you're really saying it was a total waste of money?
It's the government, right?
I led you into that one. Sorry.
What do you want? No, because I had many colleagues take place in that. You had high hopes for this. Okay, what are they going to find?
Yeah.
We finally did this. We're finally well known enough, and then desired enough to go do this. And it's kind of a letdown, but that's how good the program is. Like the program it's selecting.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came. Like I don't know what the psychology behind that was, but you still can't, after being at that command for 3 years as OPSO and 2 years as die phase, and having seen and talked to hundreds of students that have gone through, it's impossible to tell
who's going to make it.
Yeah, and believe me, all the instructors. Yeah. So we day one.
So here's what I hear you saying. You were in 21 years. If you sat there with a clipboard and you saw all these guys getting off the bus that first day when they send you out there, that even you after 21 years would have a really hard time going, he's going to make it. He's
almost
not going to make it.
If I was to bet money on it, which is why I don't gamble, I'd probably lose my shirt. You could look at a guy physically. I mean, we've had all types. Yeah. You go way back. We've had collegiate football players, professional triathletes, professional endurance runners. And those guys will wash out 9 out of 10 times. Oh, yeah, they've got the physical attributes, but it's the mental piece. That really comes in. It really takes over at some point. You can be physically in shape and do well in the evolutions in Buds, but if your mindset is wrong, that mental mindset is wrong, forget it.
So what is the right mental mindset?
So my theory,
Yeah.
and this is what you were getting at, I think.
Yeah.
Was alluding to is, again, after multiple interviews with students, 18-year-old kids, this is their dream. Some of them wash out, some of them don't. You have to have, there's some adversity in their background. If you start peeling back the layers of that onion and really get an in-depth conversation, eye to eye with some of these kids, and I did, because it's so humbling to tell these guys, you can't continue in training, or this program wasn't for you. You start peeling back that onion, you start to, oh, you came from a divorced family. Oh, you were abused as a child.
So that overcomes something.
Yeah. Oh, you had a chip on your shoulder because your father withheld inheritance from you. Whether you were wealthy, poor, middle class, didn't matter. There was something in the background. I 100% guarantee.
Yeah.
I came from a divorced family. Young kid. Was that who knows? That's adversity, though.
Mm-hmm.
According to the way we're supposed to, the norms of society, that's adversity.
For sure.
And I had to work for everything I got right from day one.
So the Parma Theory is that the ones who make it have, in their past, they've had to deal with adversity.
Right.
They've had to overcome something.
I honestly believe that there's something there. And it may not be blatantly obvious at one. Like, you may have to peel back that onion a few days, but you'll find it. Guarantee you'll find it. And all the guys I know, you have to be a misfit.
Yeah.
Like, you basically have to be a misfit.
Yeah.
We could talk about recently. There was a friend of mine. I often get referrals. Hey, can you talk to this guy? He's out in the program. He's coming to Coronado. Okay, yeah, no problem. Happy to do it. Happy to give guidance that I never got. Yeah, I got zero going through. So, which sometimes is better. It's better to go in not knowing. I think that's why. Because then you mental mind it. It's like you'll overthink it for sure. But anyway, I'll talk to an individual. Yeah, hey, have them meet me for coffee at the compound or whatever. And recently, I had a kid from Connecticut, a really good friend of mine, called me, said, hey, I got this kid. I'm sending him your way. Can you talk to him? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Sat down on coffee, squared away kid, gives background. Hey, what's your background? Because I'm curious. Straight A student, comes from a wealthy family, went to all the best schools, all the best colleges, came out.
Athletic, smart.
Really smart, well-mannered kid. But I'm talking to him like, you're perfect on paper. Mm-hmm. You are just perfect. And I'm looking at him, and he's probably doesn't understand the stare that because I'm waiting for it. Like, what is, okay, well, give me something. Give me, you robbed a candy store. You give me something. It's got to come up. Didn't come out.
Nothing.
He quits. He quits in Hell Week twice.
Because he hadn't dealt with adversity prior to that. That's the Parma Theory.
There's no
the Parma Theory. We're going to make that phrase famous right here today. Parma Theory.
I'm just telling you, there's no adversity there.
Yeah.
And
if you ever write a book, that needs to be one of the chapter titles. Okay.
The 100%.
Theory.
100%.
Yeah. So,
it's happened countless times with guys that, I mean, we talked before this about the suicide story, right? So this kid was type A personality, UCLA grad, he met all the metrics, and then, they show up at Buds, and some of them, it's like, okay, this is just the next chat. Like, I've been so perfect in my life, of course I can do it, and then they don't. Mm-hmm. In that particular case, the kid took it so hard that he drove across the bridge and committed suicide.
You know what's really interesting about this, though, JJ, is that I was a teacher and a coach for 10 years, and so I look back on the students that I taught, and as you're talking about this right now, I go, man, it was the same thing that I saw. Not just that, none of them became SEALs, but just in life. Right. The ones that sometimes on paper, they were the misfits. They didn't fit in really. They didn't look like they didn't, they weren't the valedictorians or whatever. Some of them, or many of them, went on and they've done incredible things. I just met with one last week, and it's unbelievable what he's accomplished.
You learn so much from adverse events.
Yeah.
There's no, you can't pay enough for education like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can go through all the top things in the world. If you never have an issue, it's the same thing as you've got to fail to succeed.
Yeah.
It's the same mentality.
Yep.
And unintentionally, when you have some adversity in your life, you can't be shielded from from life. And this is, I worry about that today.
Well, and that's why almost every time you and I talk together, we come back to this concept of embracing discomfort, right?
Right.
And that's something that's near and dear to your heart.
Yep.
Like you're passionate about
Yep.
that.
I'll stand on stage and tell you got to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I know this
For all the reasons we just talked about, and then some. So if you're living in a world of comfort and you're okay with where things are, and okay, because you're not, trust me, if you're in the comfort zone, you're not feeling fantastic about it. Mm-hmm. You're not advancing. You're not growing mentally. You're not growing physically if you sit inside this comfort bubble. Mm-hmm. And most people it's at a point, right? People climb and then they just suddenly stop. And anybody that's listening to this podcast, probably sitting there going, "Yeah, I think I'm there now." Right? Yeah. I bet the preponderance of people say, "I'm there now.
I'm comfortable."
You got to get out of it, right? And then how do you get out of the comfort zone? You have to do something that's challenging. You have to challenge. You have to push yourself. And I'm not talking about as a Navy, like you don't have to go drop into the Atlantic Ocean, cross Russia with a passport, and $10. You need to mentally open up and say, "Okay, I've been doing this for a long time. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's your workout program. Maybe it's your eating regimen, right? All this stuff matters. It's the pillars of, success and how to be a full person. Maybe you're just stuck in one of these areas, relationship. Mm-hmm. You've got to break out and you've got to challenge it. You've got to do something outside the norm so that you can fulfill. And every single time you're going to be so glad when you step in. It's the hardest thing to do. Changing a profession, hardest thing to do. I work in the finance world now. What the hell's a SEAL doing in finance?
Yeah,
that's the question. I don't have. I don't know because I'm an idiot. Like
the first time I met you, that was where I'm like, how did you go from
the
SEAL
the face
to...
you just made? The face you just made is the face that I get, and it blows me. It like shocks me. I go, I have no idea. Like I just took the step. On the job, OJT.
It was an uncomfortable step.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To leave the military was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
A lot of guys get stuck in that trap too. Mm-hmm. They get stuck into that. Daddy Sugar's paying those bills. Yeah. And they're good. They're good SEALs. They're good soldiers. They're good everything.
But they've been doing this for 2 decades of their life.
2 decades of their life. But I know a lot of them are unhappy. Some of them really do love it. And they have a different goal. Maybe they want to achieve that pyramid. But very few of them ever get up there. And a lot of them just stay. And they're halfway in, halfway out, straddling that line with 2 feet. Yeah. They're afraid to put that foot over. And I want to be the example. Like, get out there and look, I may fall on my face next week. I've gotten so used to being out of the car. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like you can't, there's a saying at Bud's, that which does not kill me only makes me stronger. It's on the walls. It used to be, they tore down the compound. And hopefully they put it back up in the new compound. Only easy day was yesterday. Talked about that last time. Those sayings are up there, and they're up there for a reason. If you actually take them to heart, like I wish they were more than just a picture on the wall.
It's not just about being a Navy SEAL. It's about living a good life, right?
Those are applicable to everything that we do.
Yeah.
Everything. That's when you start achieving. Then you're in full cycle and you start achieving.
Don't you think that sometimes as we go further into life and we become more of an expert, I don't think there's any such thing as an expert, but maybe further along on the learning curve, that danger even becomes more so, doesn't it, to become comfortable? Because when all of a sudden you're sitting in the room and you're the expert on whatever this is, or the person further along the learning curve, you're comfortable now. And that's where you start to get lazy, right?
Right.
So you're suggesting, anybody listening, you're suggesting to me sitting here, whatever you do, you have to look at your life right now, take an assessment and go, how are you comfortable?
Every day.
And how do you get yourself
every
out of
day?
it?
Every day you wake up, every single day. I'm telling you, where in my life have I become too comfortable?
Yeah.
What isn't working?
Yeah.
Challenge it, change it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It sounds so easy to do, but it's hard.
You know what's interesting is I just was asking this question of numerous people for the last few weeks from a spiritual perspective. I asked them the question, where in your life did you feel the closest to God? Like, where did you feel this connection to God? And you know what? Every single one of them answered it when I was going through a difficult time. One of the most difficult times of my life. Right. That's where they were uncomfortable.
Right.
It was in those uncomfortable, disorienting times in their lives where they felt that connection. To God. So, I mean, you're saying it's physical, social, spiritual, every part of our emotional.
Every facet of your life.
Yeah.
You have to look at all of them constantly. This whole thing about the continuum of time, people, you get in this rut and they just keep working and they just want to work all day, work every day, and then they work their way through it. They're working their way through life is what I call it. And they're never stopping. Right?
They're not really living life.
They're not living life at all. And again, it sounds so easy to do. And I know it's difficult, but it's got to be, if you want your life to change, you have to take control, right? These people
say
never
that again, because that's such a simple phrase, but not say that.
It is. If you want your life to change, you have to take control. You have to take that, ship's steering wheel and correct your ship.
And there's a lot of people that probably don't even know where it happened, but somewhere they gave that steering wheel over to someone else.
Yeah, 100%. And then they got stuck in the rut, and they're working their way through life.
It doesn't really matter though, right now at this point, to figure out where it happened. Just grab that steering
wheel.
So
I do these social experiments, right? Just for fun.
Yeah.
In California I split my time, California, Texas. My kids are California. I do these experiments now where I go for these long runs. This is fairly new because I think, particularly in California, you've been regional before. This isn't a political thing. This isn't a red blue. This is just California. Yeah. People are uptight. Yeah. People are uptight, and I think there's a reason for it. I think it's the socioeconomic situation. There's some political turmoil there. It's expensive, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got people just struggling to get by. And I think that plays into it a little bit. Some of that West Coast cultural, old school stuff plays into it. But they're not very friendly. You go to the East Coast, and we may be a-holes.
That's the place
in traffic,
where everybody assumes that.
But people are still, to me, a little friendly. Okay, you can agree or disagree.
Yeah,
you go to Texas. God bless Texas. Like,
you love Texas.
I'm in love. Like, I'm in love with
Texas.
I totally am in love with it. I'm so happy to be a Texan. Greatest state on the planet. But the people. I mean, I was like a little child. I get all butterfly when I first when I first started, frequenting and then became a resident, driving my truck down the people walking hand in hand, old couples.
Yeah,
you'll go by on some country road, and there goes the hand. It took me 5 times, and I go, are they waving at me? They're waving at me.
Am I doing something wrong?
I've been so Californified, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they waving at me? And they were, and I got the joy that there's something so simple about
all the Texans
some
right
other
now?
Human being, individual, connecting with you from a wave.
Yeah. All the Texans right now are telling you to shut up because they're like, we don't want anybody moving to our state anymore.
Sorry, Texas.
Yes. So your
promise to keep the secret.
What your social experiment? You're out running in California.
So now that I've totally had exposure to both, and I go back and forth. I go to California now, and I say it's part of it is me being the religious kid that diehard Catholic kid raised up. Mm-hmm. Everything's personal for me, private. I wear a blessed cross that my friend Joe gave me. Still wear it. I wear it every day. My daughter made me this blue. So my newest thing lately is I want to do something. I got to do one good deed every day. Mm-hmm. I wake up thinking that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't get done. I get mad now.
Make this world
buy
a better
coffee.
place.
Buy a coffee.
Yep.
Last week I bought a ladies' grocery. Like, she couldn't afford. We were in Imperial Beach, California. She couldn't afford. She had ground beef and sauce, and she was about to walk away. Didn't speak English, and I stopped and I said, "Nope." And you know how good the feeling that I get. It's like the people waving at you. It's the connection. Mm-hmm. The lady didn't know what to do. I just left.
Yeah.
And she was overjoyed. Like, you could just tell.
Cool.
You could feel it.
Yeah.
So in California now, on my runs, I said, okay, I'm going to change the world one person at a time. One person at a time, by a wave or a good morning. The shock. So now I'll be running. I go for an hour run, and most of it's meditation, or I'll be biking. Usually on the trail, it's when you see the people, they're just doing their thing. They're in their lane and they're California. And I'll just, out of the blue, out loud, "Hey, good morning. How are you?" Most people in California, you get this look, and I love it, and I just blow by.
It's almost become a cultural thing there.
It's almost ingrained into that society, and it's the great. And they kind of pause, and you could just feel the whole mood changes, right? So all these people today not talking, you can hear it on every podcast. Everybody's talking about, but then nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah.
How do you change? Well, we can sit here and say that nobody wants to talk. We're politically divided,
but
all those walls can come down. You never really know.
Get uncomfortable and do something.
We're all here together. We all have to live on this, and there's not less people today. There's more.
There's more.
And as much as I like to be in my little bubble every once in a while, but we all have to live on this planet.
The whole thing of being the change.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let me read you some quotes, and I just want you to comment on these, okay? So these are quotes that deal with something that you and I talk about often, embracing.
Don't test me on who said the quotes.
Oh, I won't. Well, some of these are actually, sometimes we'll read and I'll write down some thoughts or something. So I don't know. Some of these might be mine. Some of these might be some from a book I read. But here's one of them. You will not find strength in comfortable situations. Strength is found in the grind, in the wilderness, in tough moments. You agree with that?
So that's we just talked about.
Yeah.
That's the comfort zone.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You don't find anything in a comfortable moment because you're not thinking about it.
You don't need strength. You don't need courage.
You're not changing anything. You're not using other senses. You're not on edge. You're not causing your brain to challenge yourself to think, how do I get out of this situation? Oh, what can I do to better myself? Right? That's...
Yeah. How about this one? Comforts have the danger of subduing us with a slow, deceptive sleep. We become completely oblivious that we have lost our edge, our fighting spirit.
So this is the perfect, right? This is exactly what is taught to you as a special operator, right? Especially as a SEAL. Complacency will kill you. Complacency will kill you. You can never be complacent. No matter how many days you're sitting on that mountaintop or how long you're watching this target, you can never lull yourself into this false sense of security where you get complacent. The minute that happens, you're dead. Like, it's over. That applied to, now, so people are out there, oh, how do I apply that to my life? Well, it's the same thing. I mean, really, the minute you work yourself to death every single day, you've already died, right? You're being complacent. Like,
the difference might be that it's a long, drawn-out, slow death.
Right. And then at the end of the day, like I said, nobody reflects on time every day. Every day you should reflect on time. I'm here. Okay. Like people meditate. But I try to do... I'm terrible at it, but I try to do 15 minutes of meditation every day because I think it's so healthy. But that's at that point when I actually do block off that time, which I suck at. When I do block it, that's when I think of these things. And I go, okay, stop.
You're treasuring the moment, treasuring the day, treasuring time.
And my kids keep me grounded. Like, they really do. Keep me super grounded. And they keep me thinking about that 100%. Because when you have something to live for, that's when things matter, right? So I think about that and I go, okay, stop. How was today? Is your head so far in the sand today that you're not realizing that it is true? You hopefully you become a better person as you get older and smarter and wiser. And I hope that's.
But that doesn't automatically happen.
It doesn't automatically happen. You have to. This is what I mean. I'm forcefully doing it every day. But now that I'm forcefully doing that every day, you start to see it's like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon. It's the best analogy I could have. So soft for a SEAL, right? Butterfly out of the cocoon.
It's not not the analogy I was thinking.
But I mean but it's true.
SEAL would do that. How about this one? Every person and organization will naturally drift toward complacency. You don't grow accidentally.
Right. Same thing. So when I do the public speaking that I do, and I get up there and I say, well, look, in this start of the Navy, you're in one job. Have you thought about going to do the counting down the hall with Alice, or going up to production with Steve, or even going to the CEO's office for a day and say, hey, can I sit next to you and see what you do? Stepping out of that comfort zone, because the companies get complacent, and they do. Rotate positions. That's like the first thing you can do. And trust me, every company they'll open arms. If they're not, then there's something wrong. I think it's brilliant. I think most bosses that I've talked to, CEOs, think it's brilliant, right? Cross-train.
Which is one of the things that as SEAL teams you did, right?
Right. You got a 60 gun, you're a medic, you're carrying bullets, you're doing radios, you're doing it all. You know everybody's job, and you know how difficult, and then you appreciate, right, what it does. And then maybe, I would like to do that one day. And you can. You realize that you can, right? That's out of the comfort zone. When you realize you can, that it's not that difficult, because most people can, and they just never will. And so, I really get emotional about it.
And that's what I've seen. Every time I talk with you, this somehow comes out in our conversations, because you are passionate about it, which is why I'm going to tell you right now, publicly on this podcast, you need to write a book about this. You do. I think the
topic's great.
It is, and we need to hear it, because again, it's those quotes. I mean, it's what we've been talking about this whole time. Complacency is we end up complacent. We don't even realize how we got there.
Right.
It happens so slowly.
Right.
So it's a great message. I think you do need to write a book on it. So it's a deal. You're going to do it.
Only if you write it with me. How about that? I'll make you a deal.
Yeah, I would love that. Hey, JJ, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Always learn a lot from you. Leave us with one more. I mean, I think the piece that you said earlier, you said tangibly, do something today that will make you uncomfortable. Is that what you want to leave us with, or is there something else you want to tell us to do?
I think leaving with this. just stop today. After you listen to this, stop, think, sit down in a quiet room, a quiet place, and say, where am I too comfortable? How can I change my life for the better? Maybe this as simple as changing your eating habits tomorrow. Like, don't wait. Once you make that decision, do it.
Yeah.
Jump into it, both feet. Because if you wait, you're just being complacent.
It's good advice.
Yeah.
Thanks, JJ. Thanks for your
always
service.
A pleasure.
Thanks for what
always
you're doing.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Pat.
man.
Thanks for listening to the No Gray Areas podcast. To dive deeper into the story, be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and check out nograyAreas.com.